Some shit like that. What's up everyone, Andrew Baena here, and on today's video we're going to be taking a look at this awesome looking guitar right here. This is a custom Rampage, which was a collaborative project between G&L, who made the guitar, Kahler, who provided the bridge, and it was also their idea, Seymour Duncan for the pickup, and Graphtec for the tuning pegs and nut. So this was quite a large project from many different companies, but it was spearheaded by Kahler, so we're going to be talking about this bridge a lot in this video. But before we get on to that, if you've never seen one of my demos before, what I like to do is show you a full demo song, which you already heard, and then talk about the specs and features of this instrument, give you some solo tone clips, and then last but not least, my thoughts and opinions on this guitar. Before we get into the specs though, I do want to give an extra special thank you to Kahler, and especially Eddie over at Kahler, for creating this idea. It all started with him, and he actually convinced me to go along with it. Originally, I was a little skeptical because I've never tried their bridge before, and I am very glad that he convinced me to join in on this project, because this guitar is awesome. Spoiler alert. So this idea all started because Eddie from Kahler saw one of my videos where I was kind of more or less complaining about a bridge on an Ibanez guitar that I have, because it's kind of like a Floyd Rose style bridge except a hardtail, and I was kind of complaining about like, what's the point of this bridge if it's still a hardtail, blah blah blah. Anyways, that's kind of how we got started talking and how this guitar came to be. So I just want to give them a special thank you for creating this project and having this idea, because this thing turned out absolutely sick. And that's kind of enough about that. Let's get into the specs of this guitar, shall we? So first and foremost, like I mentioned, this is a Rampage model from G&L that is heavily customized, but that is the base that we're going off of. So we'll start off with the body of this guitar. It has a kill switch only, so it's either off or on, just how I like it. Next up, we have a Seymour Duncan Pegasus pickup in the bridge position. No neck pickup, because I don't want it. Then, of course, we have the nice Kahler bridge right here, which we will talk about in much greater detail in just a minute. The body material is alder, and it has this amazing finish by James Gay from G&L, which is kind of a crackle over top of a purple to yellow to green fade that just turned out way sicker than I ever could have imagined. I'll flip it over to the back so you can once again see that beautiful finish right there. It looks absolutely awesome. Also, I saw some people curious about the neck joint, so there's a better look at that as well. Moving on to the neck of the guitar, something else that makes this guitar very special is it is the first ever baritone model from G&L. This actually had to be handmade for me, so it's the only one in existence, and it is a 28-inch scale length, so I can tune it extra low. Like you heard in that demo song, I have it tuned down to drop E, which is basically an 8-string guitar tuning, and it was a lot of fun to play. While we're on the topic of the neck, we are also looking at a quarter sawn maple neck, which was finished in this nice satin black finish, but you can still see the maple through, which looks absolutely beautiful. We have an ebony fretboard up top with abalone inlays on the front and side dots, not perloid. That was my mistake in my excitement in the unboxing video. Another thing that makes this guitar very special is the Graphtec unlock nut. So you might have noticed that even though this is kind of a tremolo style bridge, it doesn't actually have a locking nut. So the premise of the unlock nut is basically so that you don't need a locked nut, and it still behaves the same way you would expect with a tremolo style bridge, and it somehow still has basically the same tuning stability. I really wanted to put this to the test, and to my surprise, it works extremely well, which is awesome because I hate locking nuts. So in addition to the tuning stability being awesome, the other nice thing about this nut is since it's not locking, you don't have to worry about restringing it and locking the nut and doing all that. You just string it like you would any other normal guitar. And again, thanks to the Kahler bridge, you don't need to cut off the ball ends because they go right in the bridge like so, which I love. I don't want complicated string changes. And in addition to that, as if that wasn't enough, we also have Graphtec ratio locking tuners, so you don't even need to wind the strings or anything. You just put them in there, lock them, cut them, and you're done. And in addition to the ratio locking tuners, we also have replaced these tuning pegs with their barrel style knobs, which I've never tried before, but I actually like quite a lot. Before I got this guitar, I was very curious to see if I would like these, because one of the things I kind of don't like about headless guitars is the barrel style tuning pegs that you would normally find, you know, at the bridge. But I'm happy to say that these are way big enough that you can twist them just like you would any other tuning peg, and they work really, really well. And also they included the original tuning pegs in case I decide down the line that I don't like them. I can swap them back easily. You just unscrew them right there. Okay, so like I briefly mentioned, this guitar has a Kahler bridge. Now this is a bridge that I had never used in my life before making this video, and when Kahler reached out to me to do this video, I was a little bit skeptical at first because I don't even really like tremolo style bridges in the first place, so I was very curious why they chose me. And I'm glad that they convinced me, because this bridge has actually been really awesome and is also packed with a bunch of features I had no idea it included. So we're going to talk about all those right now. So some of the pros to the Kahler bridge is that it requires way less routing than your standard tremolo style bridge. As you can see when I flip it over, there is no back cavity, no cavity cover, no nothing like that, because the bridge actually takes up not very much space at all. The bridge is really only about this big and then a little bit deeper into the body, but since you're not having to route out a ton of space for those springs and whatnot, this takes up much less space, and you get a little bit better resonance because the body of the guitar doesn't have as much stuff taken out of it, right? In addition to that, the bridge is also a lot less noisy than other tremolo style bridges because, again, it doesn't have these giant springs running through the entire guitar. It's nice and quiet. These bridges are also highly customizable. You can change the rollers, you can change the cam. In my case, I have it so that there are no fine tuners at all. You can also set it as a hardtail. You can do all these things out of the box without getting additional mods, like a tremolo or something like that. In fact, to change it to hardtail mode, all you have to do, see that little screw right there? You just screw that in and it's a hardtail. And vice versa, I have it in dive only mode, but if I wanted to make it so it could go up and down, there's another screw right there, and you just fiddle around with that, and then you can go both ways as well. It's all built into the bridge from the get-go, so you have tons of options, and you can basically play it and customize it to your liking. So even if you're only using this as a hardtail bridge, there are still some other features which I thought were pretty cool. You can actually adjust each individual saddle's angle so that you can make sure that the string is going over each pull piece properly, which is a kind of a nice feature I don't think I've seen any other bridge do before. Like I mentioned earlier, since these are custom ordered, you can also change the rollers and you can change the cam, and different materials will kind of accentuate different aspects of your tone. In my case, I chose to go with the brass cam and the Teflon rollers. So the brass cam, in theory, should be kind of accentuating the low end, and then the Teflon rollers should accentuate the high end. So basically I'm accentuating both ends of the spectrum. One other thing that I wanted to mention as well is, since these have rollers, what actually happens when you dive the bar like that is the strings are actually rolling across the saddle, so they never lose contact with the saddle. So it doesn't have that kind of dropout in sound with other bridges where you like really dive it hard that the strings just fall off the saddle. They pretty much always remain in contact because of those rollers, which again kind of helps with sustain when you're doing crazy dive bomby stuff, which is pretty cool. These are also all made in the USA. They're not licensed models, so Kahler is the only brand that makes their own bridge, and therefore it's very consistent. Every single bridge is going through their factory with their workers, so you know what you're getting every single time. The last thing I wanted to mention about the bridge as well is when you palm mute on it, you actually cannot knock it out of tune. Again, with some other bridges, you might notice that if you push on the bridge, it's actually going to go a little bit sharp, and vice versa. If you play, like, I don't know, the 4th fret of the 2nd string and play the low string, normally this string would start diving, but with the Kahler bridge, it doesn't do that. Now that feels like a good time to switch over to showing you some tone clips where I'm going to show you the palm mute thing and the tuning stability and all that, because I think it's really neat, especially with that unlock nut. It doesn't feel like it should have this good of tuning stability because everything about it is so unique and different than everything I've tried before, and it's been so cool to see how well it works. Anyways, I'm going to show it up and actually play the thing now. Here's how it sounds. Okay, so we're starting on locked bridge mode only. As you can hear, it sounds absolutely awesome for rhythm tone. Now I'm going to show you how to unlock it, and we're going to play with the whammy bar as well. So very simple, all you got to do to unlock it is using one of the included hex wrenches right here. You just stick it in there and unscrew it. And just like that, we are in floating mode. Let's give that a test. Oh, obviously we need to put in the whammy bar as well. One thing I forgot to mention as well, by the way, is these bridges are ambidextrous by default. So you can actually put the bar over here if you want, or over there. So if you're left-handed, it's the exact same bridge, which I thought was kind of a smart thing to do on their end. But anyways, let's go ahead and put that bar in like so. And as you can hear, it is crazy how good the tuning stability is. So we are at drop E. Pretty much exactly back in tune. Actually, it is still perfectly in tune. That is so crazy, again, especially given that it has that unlock nut, no locking tuners. Straight back in tune. So awesome, dude. Oh my god. Another thing I mentioned earlier is that you cannot knock this thing out of tune by palm muting it. So again, on other kind of tremolo style bridges, if you press down on the saddles too hard, it's going to go out of tune because, you know, you're pushing the whole bridge down by accident, but you can't do that with this bridge. That's me pressing down as hard as I humanly can on these rollers. It's still not going anywhere. That is so awesome. And again, kind of like I mentioned, when you dive the bar, you can see that the string never loses contact with that roller right there, as you can see. So it never loses that point of contact. They also included some other whammy bars, which are even more ridiculous than this, so I'm going to go ahead and pop one of those on just so I can show you what it looks like, because it's pretty funny. There you go. You versus the bar she told you not to worry about. Jesus. This is so stupid. Dude, I can't even... This is so ridiculous. Okay, well, yeah, there's that. I don't know who would use this, but we're going to use it in this video because that is hilarious looking. I mean, obviously, because it's so long. You can do some pretty cool, like, flutter things with it just because it's so ridiculous. That's so stupid. Dude, what the hell? Dude, you can do the most ridiculous dives with this. Look how loose the strings get. And again, still in tune. Insane. Okay, we're going to put back on the more normal bar and switch over to a lead tone real quick. I also just wanted to mention, I'm not going to try this one out, but there's also this very short palm bar, which has this like extended grip, so you can hit it really easily with your palm. Not really useful for my purposes, but I thought that was kind of neat, so I wanted to give it a shout out. Okay, and last but not least is to talk about my thoughts and opinions on this instrument. Now, first and foremost, G&L Rampages are not cheap guitars. These are American-made guitars as well, and at the time of filming this video, if you wanted to get like kind of a stock gloss black Rampage with a Kahler, it cost $2,500 American over at Sweetwater, for example. So this one being custom pickup, electronics, finish, longer neck, I don't even know how much it would have cost, but it is a pretty penny. But with that price range comes a certain level of quality that I would expect, and I'm very happy to say that this absolutely nails it. Everything about this guitar feels incredible. I had never played a G&L ever in my life before this one, and I am blown away by the quality. it feels absolutely amazing, and it should for the price point. The Seymour Duncan Pegasus pickup is a tried and true thing I've had in tons of other guitars, so it sounds just as good as I would expect. The Graphtec materials, aka the nut, and the tuners also have amazing tuning stability. I had already had the ratio tuners in a bunch of other guitars, so these work just like I expected them. They've always been rock solid, and like I've kind of mentioned a few times now, I was genuinely very pleasantly surprised with the unlock nut. It is absolutely mind-blowing how this works. I don't fully understand the science behind it, but it reacts just like you would expect a standard locking nut to, and that is awesome because it makes changing strings infinitely easier, and it will save you so much time when you're changing your strings. I love it. And of course, last but not least is the Kahler bridge. Again, this was the wild card of this whole situation where I had never tried their bridge before, and it was a total shot in the dark for me because, again, on paper, I was like, this is very, very different than what I normally play. I don't really like floating bridges normally. I don't really use tremolos almost ever. So I was surprised they wanted to work with me, and I'm very, very glad that Eddie convinced me to, because this bridge has been so much fun to work with, and it is genuinely shocking how many features they have packed into such a small footprint on this thing. The fact that you can lock it or have it be dive only from factory without additional mods is amazing. The fact that you can custom order it to get different rollers and plates and everything else to get the tone slightly different to your liking is also amazing. I think that who I can see a Kahler bridge being the most useful for is somebody that wants a lot of versatility in one single guitar. Now, it's no secret that in a lot of my guitars that I play live, I like using Evertune guitars because they stay in tune perfectly. But I'd never recommend Evertune bridges to people that only have like one guitar, for example, because I'm like, well, it's awesome for what it is, but you have to really commit to using that tuning because you can't really change the string gauges or change the tuning on the fly. That's not what it's designed to do. But something like this, on the other hand, is something I would say is very valuable for a guitarist that wants lots of options with one system. Again, if you want it to be hardtail, you got it. You want it to be dive only, you got it. You want it to be fully floating, you got it. And again, even if you did have a locking nut, it still does save you time. You don't have to cut off the ball ends of strings. You can feed them right into there. And even if you're using it in hardtail only mode, you can still play around with the angles to get them perfectly lined up with your pickup poles. Just so many features, it's ridiculous. So honestly, this time around, I don't have a single complaint about this guitar. I have absolutely been blown away by this. It was so many things that I had never tried before, being G&L and Kahler, and both companies have absolutely blown my mind. This thing plays and sounds phenomenal. With that being said, if you are interested in getting anything from Kahler, you can get 5% off using my link in the description and the pinned comment below. And again, a massive thank you to them for kickstarting this whole project and getting this guitar over to me. This guitar has been so much fun to play, and it will definitely be a keeper in my collection. Anyways, that's all I have to say for now. I want to give a big thank you as well to my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.